So, Conrad, you have seen this show before. You know what it entails.
I think so, yes.
Well, I salute your balls.
I will give you the opportunity to do just that.
And who says prison doesn't work?
Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Alexander Armstrong. In the news this week, after an impassioned speech denying that the Conservatives are the party of privilege, Ken Clarke makes his way back to the Commons. As he and his staff are forced to relocate and rent a small office in Peckham, there's evidence former Chief Whip Andrew Mitchell has yet to lose his sense of self-importance. And at Washington Airport, there's a security alert after some idiot leaves a bag unattended. With Ian tonight is a writer and presenter whose engagement to comedian David Mitchell was announced in The Times. Sounds a bit old-fashioned, but it only got there because a News International journalist had hacked her phone. Please welcome Victoria Coren. And with Paul is a former owner of the Daily Telegraph who was in prison for 3.5 years for fraud. He's also described Rupert Murdoch as a psychopath, so he's not all bad then. Please welcome Conrad, Lord Black of Cross Harbour. And we start with the bigger stories of the week. Paul and Conrad, please take a look at this.
Oh, badgers, yes, this is badgers. They've called off the cull of badgers. Brian May have been partly responsible for that. And George Osborne's going to be culled instead, apparently. This is the badger cull that's not going to happen because there was too many police involved in the Olympics. No, the police can't be involved in the badger cull. So there's more badgers than there should be. So they think the cull's not going to work. Some of the badgers have started employing barn owls as bouncers. So it's going to be postponed until next year, I think.
But I thought that some of these badgers, since they couldn't be culled, were being employed as auxiliaries to go from door to door, bothering people and pestering them with messages on their collars, urging them to subscribe to the Times.
Yes, I've heard that as well.
What was the police's role to be?
They were meant to protect the farmers against protesters who didn't want the badgers to be culled.
That's right.
What's weird is that they said they had to cull them in the first place because they were too many and they were dangerous.
Now there's too many to cull.
Now there's which suggests to me that they're about to take over. We know from literature that these are wise creatures, knowledgeable.
Yes, but like the Daleks can't go upstairs, the badger doesn't come out at daylight, so they're going to have to... It's going to be after night-time coup if they're going to take over the country.
And why are the badgers being culled in the first place? What are they accused of?
The Great Train Robbery was something. Well, it's for spreading TB to cattle is the... But we don't know if they do that or not, but that's the belief. Some people
That's right, yes, they're accused of spreading TB. Some would say...
Accused?
Unfairly
They're innocent
accused.
before proven.
Unfairly accused. Oh, don't you hate it when that happens?
I believe you said on another matter, if this is justice, I'm a banana.
I did.
Yeah, well, you know, the badgers may be...
They may be bananas yet.
Exactly.
So who has been lobbying on behalf of badgers?
Brian May.
That's right. We've got a picture of Brian here from some years ago, and now. Now, I'm guessing sometime between those two photographs there was a phase when he was a bit badgery himself.
Why are there so many? I think... is it that they don't have natural predators?
And they no longer consort with rats or moles.
1992, they were made a protected species, so there are no natural predators apart from Jeremy Clarkson.
One answer could be to introduce something like a puma.
Yeah. Puma, this is some badgers. Badgers, here's the puma.
There could be a vaccine.
There could be. What are the problems with the vaccine?
They won't always keep their appointments.
The boom in badgers has had an effect on hedgehogs. There are now very few hedgehogs are now being edged towards endangered species.
Do badgers eat hedgehogs?
Very carefully.
Do they? Mind you, they come with their own toothpicks, so it's not all bad, is it? That's quite a good joke, that. Is this on?
The Minister for Badgers, we have one.
Owen Paterson.
Owen Paterson,
Yes.
The Guardian asked him if he was concerned about the public opinion being against the cull. Anyone see what he replied to that?
I don't care. I'm a bloodthirsty lunatic. Badgers first, next it's Methodists.
He said, I will do what is right.
There we are.
Not what gives me a warm feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Sound advice there for anyone thinking of pissing themselves.
Is there seriously? There's a minister for badgers. There's not been a story about badgers in my lifetime before. What's this person been doing for the last 24 years? No, but what do they do the rest of the time? I mean...
He's Minister for Environment.
Oh, OK.
Yeah, he's just got the job.
Right.
He's like a lot of the Tory cabinet. He's feeling his way into disaster slowly.
In other news, how is George Osborne dragged back into the class war this week?
Oh, yes, at this time a week ago, was it? He was on travelling on a train, but only had a standard class ticket for first class, and then there's conflicting accounts as to what happened next.
Yes, there was a journalist in the same... Not the same carriage, she wasn't in the first class bit, but she took a picture and put it on Twitter.
Yes.
Have you been around for Twitter? Did you miss Twitter?
Well, I missed that Twitter, but I'm aware of the phenomenon, yes.
OK. Just if anything you're not up to speed on, you just...
George Osborne doesn't seem terribly warm. I didn't think it would be easy to feel sympathetic towards him, but it is really hard to get the right train ticket. Do you know what I mean? Haven't we all been on a train and told you can't sit there, you've done the wrong thing, you have to be wearing a hat for that?
Well, that would let the Chancellor off, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't mind that he doesn't know which ticket to buy. It's just that he doesn't know which franchise to award to who.
Yes.
That's what I mean. Fine.
Alexander, when Mr. Disraeli was the Chancellor, didn't he have his own train?
Mm-hmm. Well, would stop anywhere he wanted.
Yeah, well...
Well, as long as it was on a railway line, I mean, you know...
But is this progress in this country for the Chancellor to go from a private train down to being condemned for having a first-class ticket?
Yes, it is.
But you are allowed to buy a ticket. I mean, you can get on the train without any ticket and buy when the man comes through.
Some trains, if you buy it on the train, it costs more than if you bought it in advance at the station.
Ah.
And sometimes, if you say, can I buy a ticket on the train, they say, no, you can pay a fine.
Oh, really?
Because you should not have boarded the train without a ticket. A groan of agreement here.
Oh, yes.
A number of known fare dodgers.
Who was with George Osborne at the time?
His assistant, who he blamed. That's government for you.
Yes, she has a lovely name. Poppy Mitchell-Rose. Here they are. There's the happy couple.
Oh, I'd forgotten that. They
Yes.
were watching a DVD. Oh, that's what annoyed me. I was sympathetic about the ticket, but he can't read a book.
It might be a mirror. Keeps him entertained for hours.
A fellow passenger who spoke to the Daily Mail, he was watching a DVD on a laptop with his female aide. They were sharing the earphones, one each. It was obviously a comedy. They were laughing loudly. Not necessarily, could have been a documentary about poor people. Yeah. Oh, yes. So what happened in the end?
And the upgrade was paid.
That's right, out of George's own pocket.
You know, Sidney and Beatrice Webb, the founders of the Fabian Society, always travelled first class because they found the poor people noisy and irritating and interrupted their concentration.
Are you suggesting that's a good or a bad thing?
I suspect they were correct.
So, this is what you call a charm offensive, isn't it?
So Osborne ended up coughing up £189.90. Still, as The Guardian helpfully pointed out, Osborne is estimated to have personal wealth of £4 million. I think I read in Vanity Fair that you said, despite everything, you are still worth about $80 million. Is that right?
I had said that I'd lost 80% of my money fighting this oppression from the United States government. So he said, that leaves you with 80 million.
Did they invade you? I must have missed this.
I said I thought I could live on $80 million if that was what I had.
Yeah, well, that's the spirit. Chin up. When Osborne's train arrived in London, which it did, as we saw, there was a pack of journalists waiting. George was anxious to clear everything up, obviously. According to The Guardian, he told the assembled media, "I'm sure it will be, He's got form, though, Osborne. Sorry, that's insensitive. Sorry, that's insensitive. He's done this before. He was allegedly caught doing the same thing in May this year. The Sunday Times reported when the inspector asked him to produce the ticket, he said, "Do you know who I am?" I'd stick to, "I'm sure it will be in future if I'm
But it's all right for them to sit in first class.
Yeah, I mean, you still call it a great office of state, you know. Can't he travel first class?
We're in the middle of this austerity thing.
Yes.
Did you have that?
Canada's rich.
But we're trying to foster a spirit of all being in it together.
Yeah.
So any sort of class distinction at the moment is very, very sensitive, which is why he introduced you as Mr. Black.
You were Conrad, Lord Black of Cross Harbour.
Is that how you introduced me?
That's how I introduced you.
Oh, right.
I'm still wondering what I should call you now, though. Your Cross Harbourness.
Alexander.
OK. Now, that's my name. Might be confusing. Also this week, what has David Cameron been saying about criminals? Conrad.
That in this great United Kingdom, those officially so designated may actually have broken the law. And that this is a departure from some transatlantic customs.
He didn't really make a decision that innocent people should not go to jail, did he, this week?
Does this require the truth, Alexander?
I know you're not used to that, Conrad.
Not used to hearing it, certainly.
Ah, really? What about from the jury?
9 acquittals, and they sort of ran out of steam. But the Supreme Court made up for it
No, you didn't run out of
unanimously.
steam. You ran into jail. They found you guilty, didn't they, Conrad, the jury?
9 acquittals, complemented by a unanimous vacation of the 4 guilty verdicts by the Supreme Court of the U.S.
Didn't they? One for fraud and one for obstruction of justice.
Ian, please.
Oh, stop reciting the verdict as though it was true.
A little respect for due process, Ian.
No,
You're a banana.
I do respect it. I am not a banana. All I'm saying is that you were found guilty of 2 counts, which stood, you went to jail, you've come back. You would like to be rehabilitated, if that was the word.
No, I have been rehabilitated, and I'm proud to have been cleared by the Supreme Court unanimously.
You weren't cleared.
And I've come here...
You've come here to say you're innocent, which is sweet, but not true.
What did we discover MPs have been up to this week?
It's more expenses.
Was there one about prisoners voting? Did somebody get a point for that, or was that not the answer?
I think we've done enough about prisons for a while.
Oh, they're renting out houses and buying other houses and buying people to live in the houses and selling the people to the other...
They found an ingenious loophole.
Isn't one of them sharing a flat with another MP and renting out hers, and then the MP that's renting a room to her is claiming something on that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, that is the connection between Labour MP Ian Mackenzie and Labour MP Linda Reardon.
Why aren't they all in prison?
Well, 2 of them on the X's fiddle are in the House of Lords, and it's awfully hard to get rid of people with a record from the House of Lords. Lord Archer.
We embrace him as a fellow author.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
When you were in prison, were you a really important figure? Were you the sort of Harry Grout of the jail?
It was like Camp New Moon. I enjoyed every moment of it. And I only came out when the Supreme Court released me in order to come back here and try and help enlighten you with this crisis you're having with the Badgers.
Incidentally, Linda Reardon is the MP for Halifax. I'm not sure if that's the town or the building society. So what is she going to do now, just to round this off?
She going to resign?
No, according to the Telegraph, she asked Mr Mackenzie to move out as soon as practically possible. I bet she did. And then she's going to sell it. She told The Telegraph she took the decision to provide some transparency to the arrangements, which perhaps wasn't there prior to the weekend. So I think it'd be really nice if people provided transparency before they were rumbled, rather than after. Can I just go back and say, Camp New Moon? Is that what you said?
I did, yeah.
Where Camp New Moon? And then you came out.
I must say how moved I am at the relief that is clear tonight throughout the room at the fact that I did indeed come out. I had not, I had not been in this country for 7 years, and I'm really quite affected by this tremendous solicitude for the fact that I did leave. My wife, who has also enjoyed, as I have, a tremendously sympathetic treatment in the British media over the last few years, and she
But you did own a big chunk of it, and you weren't awfully sympathetic to other people, were you?
I was deeply sympathetic, even to you, Ian.
No, you weren't. Not at all.
Oh, Ian, what rubbish. Your nose is growing. I was a very...
My nose is growing. God.
And,
the black calling the kettle a crook. God.
This is the last-minute reprieve for Britain's badgers, who can now breathe easy. Apart from the thousands who've got TB. Meanwhile, George Osborne was in trouble after being caught in a first-class train seat with a standard-class ticket. In fairness, he had tried to sit in the quiet carriage, but was asked to leave on account of all the booing. According to the Mirror, when he arrived at Euston, Mr. Osborne was ushered out of a side door, but unfortunately the train had stopped. Also this week, Trenton Oldfield, the protester who jumped into the Thames to disrupt this year's boat race, was sent to jail. He almost collided with the Oxford crew, but avoided the cocks. Good luck doing that in prison. Now, Ian and Victoria, take a look at this.
Oh, good. Things are going to cheer up now, aren't they? I'm worried about this because I think I am the only person in Britain that thinks the BBC were right not to put on that Newsnight. I mean, you might say, why did they cover it up? Now it's come out, there doesn't seem to have been much of a fuss. But I genuinely can understand how, if you were in charge of an organisation like that and somebody had just died, you wouldn't necessarily think it was the right thing to put out a programme saying they were a child molester. I think you should be a bit careful what you say about people who aren't there to defend themselves, and I think it must have been a difficult decision, and I think the BBC would have had a really hard time if they had put it on. If they didn't put it on, they're getting a hard time anyway.
That's certainly novel.
I'm glad so many of you agree.
Yeah. I totally agree that, we should be looking at the managers of the hospitals who gave him a room and whatever, but the BBC employed him for 50 years. They cracked him up, they did nothing about what he got up to. That has to be remedied. You cannot say, oh, it's unfair on the BBC. That's why the Director-General is in front of a Parliamentary Select Committee. The whole thing is about, was it pulled because the BBC thought, we can't disrupt our Christmas schedule, we can't piss on our own 50-year parade of Isn't Jimmy a Great Guy by putting out a programme that's saying, actually, he wasn't. Look at this.
Were you hoping our answer would be funnier than this?
Yes. How was new Director-General George Entwistle grilled this week?
Well, the members of the Cultural Select Committee had a go at him. Mm-hmm. They said he was, I think, like a suit with no one in it.
The Sun described as baffled, bumbling and clueless.
Again, one doesn't want to sit here and be accused of defending the BBC, because the BBC has a lot to answer for. But one of the high points of the Select Committee was where George Entwistle was saying, I don't remember, I don't recall, I'm not sure, and someone said, you sound like James Murdoch. Quite a good joke. Not in the Sun.
George Entwistle, as I understand, has just sort of taken on the job quite recently. You've got to salute the chap, is it Thompson, who was in the job before. He's like the person that sells his house just before a motorway goes through the garden. And this poor Mr. Entwistle, straight in.
Poor Mr. Entwistle was in charge of television when the Newsnight programme was pulled.
He told MPs that the BBC is a great organisation because only a great organisation would allow one of its own programmes to tell everyone how rubbish it is.
Well, that is true. There was a very good panorama about Newsnight. And then next week there's a news night about Panorama. This idea that changing the schedules is a big deal. No, it isn't. Dad's Army, and again. And then another one, the one where Pike says, you know, with the Italian, Commander, Paul, help me out.
German.
German.
Played by Philip Maddock, who was a Welshman. Your name will go in my book. What is it? Don't tell him, Pike. Pike! The other thing about Dad's Army is that Arthur Lowe played Captain Man, who refused to, had it written into his contract, he couldn't appear without wearing any trousers. So if there was a scene which needed him to have no trousers, he wouldn't do it.
Quite right, which
Yeah.
makes him unique at the BBC in the 70s.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you see how uncooperative Jeremy Paxman was this week? Have a look at this.
Mr. Paxman, have you got any comments about the Newsnight investigation?
No, have you?
He's very aggressive, isn't he, Lord Cross?
I found him very cooperative.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Let's have a quick look at you on Pax.
Sure. Let me tell you something. I am proud of having gone through the terribly difficult process of being falsely charged, falsely convicted, and ultimately almost completely vindicated without losing my mind, becoming irrational, ceasing to be a penitent and reasonable person, and actually being able to endure a discussion like this without getting up and smashing your face in, which is what most people do if they think through what I do. Well, you go ahead and do it. No, I don't think it's
Did that feel good?
not as good as doing it. No, I like Jeremy. He's just an asshole, that's all.
It's unbelievable that you get away with that, really. A man asking you questions about being a fraudster and you just say he's an asshole.
So, moving on, which other much-loved and respected TV entertainer's reputation may be tarnished by a new investigation?
Pudsey. It's Piers Morgan, isn't it?
There we are. Yes. What is the story?
Well, it looked for a while as though only News International were going to get blamed for phone hacking. But now, would you believe it, someone's taken a civil action against the Mirror Group. 4 people. And the editor at the time of the trouble was Piers Morgan, who is innocent.
He has repeatedly denied, hasn't he, having anything to do with phone hacking.
Yes, though amusingly, most of the evidence comes from his own autobiography.
Yeah, what does Jeremy Paxman have to say about Piers?
Tell us.
Do you remember that? He told the Leveson Inquiry that over a lunch at the Mirror in 2002, Piers Morgan explained that Paxman would be a fool not to have his own security setting on his mobile voicemail. And he then explained that the way to get access to someone's voice messages was to use the factory default setting of 0000 or 1234. And Piers Morgan laughed this off. And he says he can't remember any of the details. But in fact, he has a very patchy memory. In the Daily Mail, he said of Jimmy Savile, "I never met him." Yet, in an extract from Piers' book, also printed in the Daily Mail in 2009, he said, "As I left, Jimmy Savile came up to me and said, 'Your TV shows are brilliant.' I've always loved Jimmy Savile." What do you think of Piers Morgan, Conrad?
He wanted desperately to come and visit me in prison.
Did he?
And I told the warden I'd be happy to receive him. But then I'm afraid he kind of bottled out at the end. Do you suppose he was afraid that once admitted in, he wouldn't be let out or something like that?
Yes, this is the embarrassingly inept handling of the Jimmy Savile scandal, which has caused the public to lose all trust in the BBC. One Newsnight source has suggested that the reason the Savile investigation was dropped was that the BBC head of news, Helen Bowden, placed an impossibly high barrier to the story. Here is Helen Bowden. Oh, hang on, sorry, before we're accused of another BBC cover-up. Whoa, there we go. Now, until this week, that was her most uncomfortable moment. And so to round 2, the picture spin quiz. Fingers on buzzers, teams.
Well, is it a 3D printer?
That's exactly right, it is.
Isn't that called a teleporter? Can you feed yourself in one end?
What, and then come out the other end?
Yeah.
What would be the point of doing that? Well, you're still in the same room, you've just gone through a machine.
We can see one in action. Here we go.
Go on, then. So what is this? Is this plastic or something? My God. And does it always have to look like that thing?
Yes.
Technology for you?
Yeah. Does someone know how it works?
Yeah. You press a button and it comes out the other end.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows?
No one knows.
How did it get there in the first place? Look at this machine.
was
You press a button,
teleported.
the house comes out. How does that work? Nobody knows.
No, it hasn't. I'm not sure anyone's tried to explain it because it's veiled in secrecy.
Science.
Yes. Various people have tried to have a go at explaining it. Some say it's like an MRI scan.
Yes.
Others say it's like making a multi-layered sandwich. But here's the Independent science correspondent's attempt. Think of it like chipping away at granite to make a statue, but the opposite. What things can you create with it, they say?
Is that a vase?
According to the Independent, anything from bike chains to red blood cells, prosthetic legs, and guns.
What?
How would you make a gun?
You might press the wrong button all afternoon and get into hundreds of prosthetic legs. Hundreds of these things. I'll have to go out and hit people over the head with it. I've got no single gun.
What else have scientists discovered this week?
That they can go to prison if they don't adequately predict when an earthquake's going to happen.
The Italian government's trying to put scientists in jail for failing to predict the earthquake.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Michael Fish would be in the slab. He'd still be there.
This is to do with beluga whale.
There's a beluga whale,
Look at
I
this.
think, who's mimicking human speech.
A marine biologist diver thought he heard a whale telling him to get out of the water.
Yeah, get out,
So
get out of the water, get
he
out of the
set
water.
up a,
It's hard to keep these alight under here, I tell you.
he set up a programme of sound recordings of the whales and analysed them.
Yes.
Do you want to hear the whale doing an impression of a human?
Yes, please. That sounds like a hell of a party.
Yes, this is the arrival of a new gadget in our homes, the 3D printer. Using this technology, the University of Washington has proposed creating a 3D shop, or as laymen like you and I would call it, a shop. Fingers on buzzers. Paul and Conrad.
Well, it's Obama and it's Donald Trump, but he said something about the president this week.
He accused him of being a blowhard, and the president demonstrated that he could scarcely move Donald's wig, you see.
It's not a wig, though, is it?
Who would buy a wig that looked like that? You'd want your money back, wouldn't you? Is Donald Trump one of those people who believe that the president wasn't born in an American state?
Exactly right. He's a birther. He believes Obama was born in Kenya and hence ineligible for the job of president, despite him having shown everyone his birth certificate and him being the president. One commentator described Donald Trump as a bloviating ignoramus. Conrad, do you know Donald Trump?
He's a loyal friend, and after what I've been put to in the last 9 years, I attach a great premium to that, and I think Donald's a very fine man, but I admit he's an acquired taste.
What did he promise earlier this week, Donald Trump?
Didn't he make a bet about the birth certificate?
Well, he said that he had a revelation that could possibly change the result of the election.
All he has to do to get $5 million for a charity or charities of his choice is get his colleges to immediately give his applications and records, and also to release his passport records. When he does that, to my satisfaction, if it's complete, this check is delivered immediately. A lot of people will be very, very happy to see this happen. Frankly, it's a check that I very much want to write.
Just write it.
Look at the light falling on his hair.
What did people think that his revelation was going to be, but never was?
Well, they thought he'd have a different certificate or he'd have some evidence.
A tweet from a respected businessman who's been on TV with Trump, Douglas Cass. He said, "High above the Alps, my gnome has heard that Donald Trump will announce that he has unearthed divorce papers between the Prez and his wife." And amazingly, millions of Americans believed a man who talks to a gnome.
I like the idea that you could pay to see records from politicians. You could bid for... I'd pay £100 to see George Osborne's O-level maths paper. You could do it as a sort of telephone.
But I love the way Donald Trump can say, I want it to be shown to my satisfaction. You think, no, he's the president, you're a man with stupid hair.
What did some wags at The Guardian do in response to Trump's offer?
Dunno.
but I bet it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. They rang his office and asked for Trump's college and passport records. The paper was accused of trying to be funny. On the subject of people with questionable hair trying to have a say in American politics, who else has waded in?
Is it Wayne Rooney?
It is, yeah. It's Wayne Rooney, yeah. Wayne Rooney tweeted, "Watched all the presidential debates. If I had to vote, would vote Obama." Is that because Obama's elderly grandmother lives in the UK? Well, according to seasoned political commentators, The Sun, political experts said that the Premier League's star could actually help Obama be returned as president. Also, Wayne's tweet was said to be a game-changing endorsement by Piers Morgan. Wayne Rooney stayed up late to watch all three of the presidential debates, so must have turned up tired for training. I'm sure Sir Alex Ferguson was delighted. You know the rules. See BBs for an hour, one prostitute, then bed. Time now for the odd one out round. Ian and Victoria, your four are Orson Welles, Dawn French, Conrad Black and Anthony Worrell Thompson.
Is Anthony Worrell Thompson ever not the odd man out?
Is it fancy dress?
Mm-hmm. There's definitely a picture of Conrad Black dressed... Is it Cardinal Richelieu?
It is. Was it?
You must have been so sorry you wore that costume.
It was the only one left at Angels. And it wasn't Richelieu, by the way. I was just an ordinary cardinal, and my wife didn't even have a costume. She put a lot of petticoats under something she had and came as a barmaid.
Should we have a quick look at the pair of you?
Yeah.
When you say your wife didn't have a costume...
So who's the odd one out?
Orson Welles appeared as Cardinal Richelieu in a film, and Dawn French has appeared as a vicar. So she's the odd one out because all the others have appeared as cardinal in some shape or form.
Spot on. Yep, that is right, yes. Yes. Orson Welles, in the 1966 film version of A Man for All Seasons, he played the part of Cardinal Wolsey. Can anyone else think of another role Orson Welles played in his career?
Sure. Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane?
Yes, played Charles Foster Kane, a power-crazy multi-millionaire newspaper tycoon who faces a humiliating demise on account of his own greed.
Not humiliating. No, not humiliating.
So, Anthony Worrell Thompson. He is dressed as a cardinal to mark the launch of the national Save the Cauliflower campaign, which at least explains why he nicked all that cheddar. He just loves cauliflower cheese.
Why is he dressed as a cardinal?
He couldn't get a cauliflower costume.
Yes, they have all dressed as a cardinal, except Dawn French, who dressed as a vicar. At the end of every episode, the vicar of Dibley told a joke to her friend Alice, who never, ever laughed. Though, to be fair to Alice, by the end of Vicar of Dibley, she wasn't alone. Here is Anthony Worrell Thompson, dressed as a cardinal. If you think he looks embarrassed there, imagine how he felt when they took that hat off and found an Edam. Here is Conrad, dressed as a cardinal, on his way to becoming Pope Innocent the Not. Talking to Newsnight, Conrad tried to dismiss his ostentatious choice of outfit, saying it was the only one available at the costumier the day before the party.
He just said that again. On this programme. Why credit Newsnight?
Yeah. Talking to this programme, Conrad tried to dismiss his ostentatious choice of outfit, saying it was the only one available at the costumier the day before the party. Actually, that is absolutely true. I got in just before you and nabbed the convict's outfit, so... Paul and Conrad, here are yours.
Yeah.
Andrew Mitchell, MP, the Dalai Lama, Thomas Bowdler and Jacob Rees-Mogg, MP.
The Thomas Bowdler, he produced what he thought were improved versions of Shakespeare plays, I think. Andrew Mitchell, of course, is the pleb man.
They all amended speeches. Is that the clue?
I think it's about swearing. Jacob Rees-Mogg was on something recently, talking...
How dare you spread rumours? He's not even dead!
I don't know what the odd one out would be.
I think Andrew Mitchell's the odd one out because they've all admitted to swearing apart from him.
Andrew Mitchell is the odd one out, but they all abhor bad language. Apart from Andrew Mitchell, who said he swore, then said he didn't swear, then said he swore. Yeah. So, yes, the dreary plebgate fiasco finally came to a close. It's always sad to see such a likeable and humble public figure fall from grace. The Dalai Lama, why is he up there?
He believes that he once swore in 1046.
No, he was accused of speaking in a very un-Dalai Lama-y way.
Really?
Yes, addressing Brown University. What was he accused of saying? Someone read this?
Not sure.
No, the Dalai Lama was saying forget, but the stenographer transcribed that as f*** it. To be fair, he has done it before, and with the same word as well. So let's have a look at this. This is him speaking in Vancouver.
I think we should forget about our feeling, our religious sort of differences, and also you say forget. And forget forget, you see, the different races. Yeah, I know. Well.
You see, he's so unsweary, he doesn't even know why they're making a noise.
Do you think? I think he knows perfectly.
He doesn't.
Do you think he's hamming it up?
I think he is.
For laughs.
According to one biography, Thomas Bowdler, the man who removed all the references of sex from Shakespeare's plays, was born in the village of Box, near Bath, or as he put it, near Bath. Jacob Rees-Mogg this week, the Conservative MP, told Newsnight...
You would never have sworn to a police officer in that manner, would you, Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Miss Maitlis, I don't think I've ever sworn in my adult life.
Which is obviously complete bollocks. This is him speaking to Andrew Neil. Andrew Neil's asked him the question, what class are you?
Well, I'm certainly not part of the aristocracy. That's definitely true.
So we settle for upper middle?
I'm a man of the people. Vox populi, vox dei.
So, yes, they all abhor bad language, apart from Andrew Mitchell, who said he swore, then said he didn't swear, then said he swore. According to the Sunday Times, since the scandal, Andrew Mitchell has lost a stone in weight. Of course he has. Every time he sees a policeman, he cycles away like a man possessed. Andrew Mitchell's outburst came after refusing to dismount from his bike when told to by police. He gives all of us cyclists a bad name, said Lance Armstrong. Time now for the Missing Word Round, which this week features as its guest publication, Fraud Focus. And we start with... I was raised by monkeys, says what?
Yorkshire housewife.
Monkey.
Absolutely right. Yes, Mum from Bradford.
Yes.
Next, Village People YMCA is what?
Heterosexual anthem.
I think I'm going to give you that, yes. Is not gay is the answer.
I just made that up.
This is the insistence from the Village People that their song YMCA is not gay. According to the Times, YMCA is generally believed to be a celebration of sodomy in the showers. Not sure that's something you want to celebrate, is it? Next, Felicity Kendall says what?
I've had a tattoo.
Absolutely nearly right. She says, tattoos are better than Botox. Felicity Kendall revealed this in an interview with Piers Morgan, although the interview I'm really looking forward to is the one where Piers Morgan chats to the Metropolitan Police about hacking. Next, the more what, the greater the risk of fraud.
Oh, this is all so awkward. You do it.
The more, the merrier.
The more employees, the greater the risk of fraud. According to edition 13, fraud costs the UK £38 billion a year. Although, according to edition 15 of Fraud Focus, the scale of fraud in the UK represents £73 billion a year. Someone's been cooking the books. Next, BBC producers advised what?
Shred their papers.
Advised to step aside.
Conrad's probably the nearest. BBC producers advised by National Fraud Authority. According to the National Fraud Authority, the greatest risk of data theft is personal information given by women shopping for clothes online. Luckily, none of the information is accurate. Next, his and hers. What for the Burkhouse?
Burkas. I'd like to see that picture, wouldn't you? Fancy dress party, they both go as burkas.
Licence plates, they've got similar licence plates
That's
for their
exactly
cars.
right. That's right,
Okay.
licence plates.
Yeah.
Here is John Burkhow's number plate. So, yes, he has a personalised plate as soon as he changes his name to John B13 or co. Next, I need a what? The old one's inside a cow.
Mobile phone.
You're absolutely right. A new phone.
Yeah.
According to his insurers, a farmer claimed for a new phone after he lost his iPhone whilst trying to use it as a torch to look up the rear of a cab.
Was there nothing on the telly that night?
Sad thing was he was only looking up there for his... Oh, balls.
Was he looking up there for his balls? You've got an idea about animal husbandry which you should keep to yourself.
Sad thing was he was only looking up there to find his iPad. And finally, chef turns what into what?
Left into driveway.
Is it food into meal?
It is cottage pie into smoothie. The most popular smoothies in Britain are innocent, as are all of our panellists tonight. So the final scores are Ian and Victoria have 5 and Paul and Conrad have 10. But before we go, there's just time for the caption competition.
BBC cover-up reaches new low.
On which note, we say thank you to our panellists Ian Hislop and Victoria Coren, Paul Merton and Conrad Black. And I leave you with news that in Texas there's a worrying moment for Lance Armstrong when his dog accidentally swallows the contents of his medical bag. In Shepherd's Bush, BBC executives undergo a training exercise on how to react to bad news. And after a stressful few weeks, former Chief Whip Andrew Mitchell finally gets time to trim his front hedge. Good night.
Have I Got News For You is back on BBC One Friday night at 9. Up next tonight, soldiers with the Welsh Guards platoon talk about their time in Afghanistan with our war.